Birthdays are supposed to be days of celebration, days that make you feel loved, appreciated, and seen by the people who matter most. As a child, I remember looking forward to my birthday with so much excitement. It was the one day where I felt truly special. My parents would organize parties, bring out a cake with candles, and gift me something thoughtful. It wasn't extravagant, but it always felt meaningful. Those birthdays were a reminder that no matter what else was going on in life, I mattered to them. Please subscribe to our channel and PLZ help us to reach 1,000 subscribers. PLZ, help me just one subscribe. But somewhere along the way, that changed. It started subtly. On my 21st birthday, I didn't expect a big celebration. After all, I was an adult now. But even a simple acknowledgement would have been enough. Instead, the day passed without so much as a happy birthday. At first, I thought it was just an oversight. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they thought I was celebrating with friends. I brushed it off, telling myself it wasn't a big deal. Then came the next year, and the year after that. Each time, the same thing happened: silence. No calls, no messages, no cake, no mention of the day at all. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, but after 5 years, it became impossible to ignore. They hadn't just forgotten my birthday once or twice. They had completely stopped acknowledging it. It was as though my birthday didn't exist, as though I didn't exist. I wanted to confront them, to ask why they never remembered anymore, but every time I thought about bringing it up, I felt a pang of guilt. What if I sounded petty? What if they thought I was being childish for caring about something so trivial? So instead of saying anything, I buried the hurt deep inside, pretending it didn't matter, pretending that the sting of being forgotten didn't linger. But it did matter. With every passing year, their silence felt heavier, like a quiet declaration that I wasn't as important to them as I thought I was. While I worked hard to build my career, to grow and succeed, their absence on my birthday became a constant reminder of how disconnected we had become. I still loved them, of course, I always would, but their forgetfulness left scars I couldn't ignore. Ironically, the more they forgot, the more I worked to prove myself. I poured my energy into my ambitions, driven by a mix of pride and determination. I wanted to show them that I was worth remembering, worth celebrating, even if they didn't seem to notice anymore. And eventually, my hard work paid off. Promotions, awards, new opportunities. I accomplished things I never thought possible. Along the way, I saved enough money to fulfill one of my lifelong goals: buying a house. The house was more than just a milestone. It was a symbol of everything I had achieved, every late night spent working, every sacrifice I had made. It was proof that I could succeed, even without the validation I had once craved from my parents. And as I stood in the empty living room, gazing out at the space that was now mine, I felt an overwhelming mix of pride and independence. For the first time in years, I felt like I didn't need their acknowledgement to feel whole. But then, an idea struck me. A way to give back, a way to show my gratitude, a way to reconnect with them despite everything. It wasn't an impulsive decision. It was something I had thought about for months. My parents had always dreamed of living in a house like this, something spacious and peaceful, away from the city noise. I decided to surprise them by gifting it to them. It felt like the right thing to do. Despite their flaws, they were still my family, and I wanted them to have something that would bring them joy. As the idea formed in my mind, I felt an unexpected sense of empowerment. For years, my birthdays had slipped by unnoticed, with my parents offering nothing but indifference. Yet here I was, about to hand them the ultimate gift: a house. It wasn't just any house. It was a dream home, the kind they had always talked about but never thought they'd have. But as much as this was an act of generosity, it was also something more, a way to reclaim my own narrative. If they could forget me, I could show them just how deeply those years had shaped me. And maybe, just maybe, I could make them realize what they had missed. I decided to keep everything about the house a secret, not telling them even as the final paperwork came through and the keys were placed in my hand. Every detail was carefully thought out: the location, the style, the size. I had chosen it specifically with them in mind. knowing how much they loved peaceful surroundings and plenty of space for gardening. It felt surreal to stand in the empty rooms, imagining their reaction when they realized what I had done. But even as excitement built within me, there was a lingering ache that refused to disappear, a reminder that their constant forgetfulness had left wounds that no gift could fully heal. I didn't plan a dramatic reveal. Instead, I opted for simplicity. I invited them over for lunch, casually mentioning that I wanted to show them a new project I had been working on. They arrived, curious but unsuspecting, chatting animatedly as I drove them to the house. As we pulled into the driveway, their voices faltered. My mother stared out the window, her eyes widening as she took in the sprawling yard and the elegant facade of the home. My father leaned forward, scanning the space as though trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "What is this?" my mother finally asked, her voice laced with confusion. I parked the car and turned to face them. "It's yours," I said simply, handing them the keys. "This house is for you." The silence that followed was deafening. My father opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. My mother held the keys in her hand, staring at them as though they were something foreign, something she couldn't quite process. It was the reaction I had expected: shock, disbelief, a mix of emotions too complex to verbalize. I led them inside, walking through the rooms as they took it all in, their expressions shifting from awe to joy to hesitation. This, this is too much," my mother finally said, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to do this." "I know," I replied, my tone steady. "But I wanted to. You've always dreamed of a home like this, and now you have it." As they explored the house, their excitement began to build. My father talked about plans for the garden, while my mother imagined hosting family dinners in the spacious dining room. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pride, knowing I had given them something they would truly cherish. But as the day went on, that flicker began to fade, replaced by the memories of all the birthdays that had gone unnoticed. Watching them marvel at the house, I couldn't shake the lingering question: did they even realize what those forgotten years had meant to me? That evening, as we sat together in their new living room, the conversation turned reflective. My father thanked me for the gift, calling it the most generous thing anyone had ever done for them. My mother expressed her gratitude too, but there was something in her voice, a note of guilt perhaps, or regret, that suggested she was wrestling with something deeper. Finally, after a long pause, she looked at me, her eyes soft but troubled. "Why did you do this?" she asked quietly. "After everything, why would you go out of your way like this?" It was the question I had been waiting for. "Because you're my parents," I said simply. "And no matter what, I'll always love you. But there's something you should know." They looked at me, their expressions expectant. I took a deep breath, gathering the courage to say what I had kept bottled up for years. "You forgot my birthday," I began, my voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Not once, not twice, but 5 years in a row. And every year I waited for a call, a text, anything that would tell me you remembered. But you didn't. You didn't even realize." My mother's face fell, her hand instinctively reaching for mine. My father's expression hardened, not in anger, but in shock, as though he was suddenly seeing the weight of his actions for the first time. He started, but I cut him off gently. "I'm not saying this to make you feel bad," I continued. "I'm saying it because I need you to understand. I worked hard for this house, not just to give you something special, but to prove to myself that I'm worth celebrating, even if the people I love most don't always see it." The silence stretched on, heavy and unbroken. My mother wiped away a tear, her grip on my hand tightening as she struggled to find the right words. My father looked down at the floor, his shoulders slumping slightly as the truth settled over him. They weren't bad people, not by any means, but their forgetfulness had left wounds they hadn't even realized they had inflicted. And now, sitting in the gift I had given them, they were finally beginning to see. "I'm sorry," my mother said at last, her voice cracking. "I didn't know. I didn't realize how much it hurt you." My father nodded, his voice low but earnest. "We were wrong. We should have been better. And we will be, starting now. I smiled, not out of forgiveness, but out of relief. Finally, they understood. Finally, they saw what those years had meant. It wasn't about the house, or the gift, or the grandeur of the gesture. It was about showing them that even when they forgot me, I refused to forget myself. As I drove home that night, leaving them to settle into their new dream home, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't anticipated. They would never be able to take back those forgotten birthdays, but they could start making things right, and for the first time in years, I believed they would. The house wasn't just a gift. It was a message, a reminder, a quiet declaration of everything I had worked for and